Were you ever told there's a time for all things? I'm Jackie Brown, and I'm here to say, yes, many times I was told that by my parents while growing up. In Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 11, mentioned 30 times are the words, there is a time. Yes, our Father knows all times, and for every one of us under the sun. Whenever I look and read these verses, I generally will have a slightly different impact. It may be one of a down-to-earth reminder. It could be an impact of appreciation. It could be an impact of some hunger for greater spiritual knowledge. Or it could be one of a slightly philosophical nature. And most likely it's going to be an impact of implied challenges for both you and for me. Let's take a look at verse 1. In verse 1 it states, there is a time for everything. And here we're introduced to the power of wisdom itself. Next we have He appoints times. The time for us arriving here on this earth and the time for our departure are times set by Him. We advance on to the verses where we realize that our actions, living those actions, and timing those actions are most important to God. We must treasure every moment. And with that, we need to remember there is a time for ... Many of us waste time. We're thinking of the someplace else, doing something else, or perhaps even being someone else. And in so doing, we have lost something. Why should you and I spoil the beauty of the moment in thinking of all these some else's? Solomon, in presenting these verses, used a simplistic manner, and that simplistic manner came with a challenge. It came with a challenge for you and for me, and that is to make sure our actions and the timing of those actions are Christ-like in nature. Life is a balancing act. I know for myself I've spent a career in crunching numbers. But you and I both know life itself, in every segment of it, has balance to and with it. Often we're on the seesaw. We may be down, and then an event occurs that may place us up. But let's look at some of the details in the verses. There's a time to plant, there's a time to pull up. There's a time to tear down, and there's a time to build up. There's a time to cry, but yet there's a time to laugh. There's a time to be sad, and there's a time to dance. There's a time to scatter stones, and there's a time to gather them. There's a time to embrace, and there's a time just not to hug. There's a time to search, and there's a time to stop. There's a time to keep, and there's a time to throw away. There's a time to tear, and there's a time to mend. There's a time to talk and speak, and there's a time to remain silent. There's a time to love, and there's a time to hate. Often knowing these times of when we need to do one versus the other defines the difference in that foolish person and that wise individual. That foolish person may make comments like, I put my foot in my mouth, or hey, I jumped the gun, or a comment like, when I get ready to throw things away, I throw away everything. That wise individual over here may be saying, hey, I'm going to pick my moment. I'm going to wait for the just right time. If it's supposed to happen, then it will do so. I'll wait and see if it's placed on my heart before I act. May we trust the process. Let's try not to just keep on and hold on to that past. Likewise, let's not be peering far in the future, but simply have faith in every moment. There is a time for everything. When I selected these verses for presentation to you, the following day I received a phone call saying a close acquaintance had passed. He served in the ministry his entire life, and for his final goodbye he chose verse 11. And I quote, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." For God's creations and all the beauties, always, always, there is a time for giving thanks. I challenge you to find that time. Any time would be a perfect time. For you devoting your time to this listening time, I thank you. May you too, when you read Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 11, you'll have a positive impact. All my best to you.